Welcome to Ole Walls House. It's me. It's your man. It's your main man. It's Ole Walls, and I'm back with you. Episode 137 coming your way. Just want to start off by saying thank you to everybody. I appreciate all your support, all the watches, all the listens. So thank you. If you guys could, please rate, review, comment, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. The Liquid IV promotion code still works. I don't think I'm getting anything for it anymore, but if you want 20% off Liquid IV, OWH is still rocking for you. Got another fun show here. MJ and I dive into the Easts, the AFC and NFC East this week. MJ, a Cowboys fan, has some thoughts when we get to that portion of the discussion. Won't be a whole lot other than that on this show. I'm just going to kind of wrap up some other things after that, but the main bulk, like the last couple of weeks, will be this. And then just a quick note, we finish up the fourth part next week. MJ and I have actually already recorded that. I'm going to be out traveling about and playing in a golf tournament, so I won't have really much time to do anything for that. So that episode will be predominantly that as well. So bear with us if there's a little inaccuracies due to some things happening from now until that episode drops next week. But this week we got the AFC and NFC East with MJ, part 3 of our 4-part series previewing the NFL season. Let's get into it. Here we go. MJ's back. Part 3 this week. AFC East, NFC East. MJ, how we doing, buddy?
I am doing great, Wally. How are you?
Oh, wonderful. Well, man, we're 2 weeks down, 2 weeks to go. We're officially starting the second half of this thing. We head east, the AFC East and the NFC East. A couple very interesting divisions, I think. I think these are maybe the most interesting divisions we'll talk about, and I think definitely the most interesting ones we've talked about so far. So let's just dive in with the AFC. Just a quick recap from last year. The Bills and Dolphins tied atop the division at 11-6. The New York Jets, after a much-anticipated season, 7-10 after Aaron Rodgers go down. And the New England Patriots, 4-13 in their final season with Billy B. So a lot of influx in some teams, not so much in others. So Let's just dive in, MJ. What's your early lean on what you think happens here, and pick a team for us to start with?
Well, I think what you alluded to in the beginning with both of these divisions, I do think like both divisions are really good, and I feel like the weeks before that we've talked, we've kind of discussed like one side, let's say like the NFC West, we're like, oh, that could be really competitive, and then it's like, well, the NFC South is competitive for kind of maybe a bad reason. Like we really haven't had both divisions in a South or a West, and now the East, where like both of them I think can be really competitive, and I think that's the case here. So it's kind of exciting, like that I think we purposely kind of left the East and maybe the North last, but I'm excited to kind of see what this division's going to be. If you think about last year, the Dolphins got out to a pretty hot start, and then the Bills kind of had to kind of fight back, and the Jets won some games that you're scratching your head on how the hell they did that, because
how they went 7-10.
It's amazing.
With their quarterback play is bonkers.
So, I mean, and then, the Patriots with a down year and stuff, and now they're kind of in a rebuild with a new coach and Jared Mayo, and it's an interesting division on both the NFC and AFC side. So, I mean, we can dive into who I think might win this thing, or where do you want to start?
Let's go for it. Let's just go straight to the top.
So I'll start this, and like I might allude to it a little bit later when we dive into each team a little bit, but I'm kind of sticking my neck out, and that doesn't always work, but sometimes it does. Sometimes I always just try to throw in that, I've been wrong, but I have been right a few times. I actually think if the Bills win this division, I think it's going to take at least 10 or 11 wins. And I think if the Bills win the division, Josh Allen is no doubt the MVP of the league. I think he's probably the second, maybe you could argue, maybe third best quarterback in the league. Um, and I think if he carries this Bills team, which really hasn't had much addition in this offseason besides through the draft and just a few free agents, and they've lost some key pieces, I really think he deserves MVP. But I'm going to stick my neck out and say I think they do not win the division. And I think with a tiebreaker with one other team that I'm not going to mention, but I think the Miami Dolphins win this division at 10-7. And I'll just kind of go to why. I think they'll start this year red hot again. Like, I think they're going to come out flying around. They got speed and weapons. I do think the middle to end of their schedule is going to be very tough, and I think they're going to kind of sputter again, and that might give the Bills, Jets, and maybe even the Patriots, if you're a Patriots believer, some kind of get back spot. Like, maybe we can get back into this division race. Maybe we can get back into the second, third seed in the AFC or something like that. So I think it's very interesting. I can't shy away from the Dolphins' speed and all their talent on the outside. I think their offensive line's a little bit better than people give them credit for. Their defense has had some subtle improvements, so I think they win the division at 10-7, which kind of gives you some clue.
Yeah, let me walk you through their first 7 games. Host the Jags, host the Bills, at Seattle, tough place to play, but we don't think Seattle's a great team. Host the Titans, at the Patriots, who I think are going to stink. At the Colts, who again don't think there's anything special there, and then host the Cardinals. So, I mean, that's a pretty nice slate to start. I mean, even you go a couple more games. They have the Bills again. They get to Buffalo in November, so they don't have to go there real late in the year when it can get real cold. At the Rams, host the Raiders, host the Patriots. So there's a lot of good that can come for them before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So
and I put in my notes, and I think we've kind of talked about this before. I am not a Tua guy. I just don't. And take away the health issues and stuff. And last year he was relatively healthy, and he did a better job with his running and decision making and stuff. And I know they extended him. That's the one piece where I'm like, he's a good quarterback. I'm not going to take anything away from him. I don't know if he's the guy that puts you over the hump necessarily. I think
the term I was going to use is there's a very clear ceiling with him, I think.
Yeah. And there's a very clear floor. Like, you're going to get good quarterback play. It's not anything. To me, he's kind of a poor man's Kirk Cousins. And Kirk Cousins been in the league for a long time and had really good success, but kind of
put up a lot of numbers.
Yeah, kind of flakes out in some big games. He's had weapons. And now Tua's more athletic and younger and stuff. So I'm not really saying they're the same player, but I just kind of get that Kirk Cousins vibe, and that's similar
not a bad thing. I think there's a similar career trajectory, very possible for Tua.
Yeah, and Kirk Cousins, I think could be a NFC or an AFC championship game type quarterback, was surrounded with the right pieces and all that stuff. And I think Tua could do that. And maybe this is the year they do it. And I think they have a really good shot of winning the division. I picked it kind of in a tiebreaker situation. I like Mike McDaniels. There's some really exciting things in Miami. It's just sometimes I'm like, is Tua the guy that's really is he gonna go beat Josh Allen in Buffalo late in November, December? Is he gonna, go into New York late in the season and beat the Jets, no matter who's on that team, or New England for that matter? So, I got to see it first, but I do think they're going to have a really solid year, especially that first 8 to 10 game stretch. And it
feels
hard.
like they're a team that can get out early in the season and also in games. Like, if they get out early,
yeah,
they've got an interesting kind of playbook. It feels like McDaniels is a great, the first 15 plays, the scripted plays, like if those hit, you could be in a lot of trouble really quick.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's the same thing at the start of the season when the weather's nice and, the playbook is new and fresh and all the tape hasn't gone around the league. It feels like there's a lot of high potential, high activity, high risk, high reward plays that work for him. That it does seem like as the season wears on, the injuries, people get banged up, the game tape gets around. It seems like there's a little bit of a different feel from first half Dolphins to second half Dolphins.
Yeah, and like I'll even go like a little deeper than that. Like we can talk about all their speed and athleticism, but come December, January, and if they're looking to play into February, like sometimes big and strong beats out that speed and athleticism. And that's just sometimes. There's always outliers, and maybe they're trying to be that. But I do think their defense has gotten a little bit better. I like Jalen Phillips. I like Calais Campbell's on that team. Older guy, but like they have Jalen Ramsey. Who else? The Poyer kid? No, they don't have him.
No,
they
he's not.
Drafted Chop Robinson. I think could it be a good rotational guy from Penn State? Like they do have some nice pieces. Christian Wilkins is there now, or no, he left. So like there's some pieces. I got to see it a little bit, but here I am saying all this kind of negative stuff. I have them winning the division. Like I really think they're going to be a good team. I just don't know if I'm a Miami fan if I feel good when I say 10-7, win the division. When I look at that schedule, I'm like, man, there's a lot more winnable games out there if we're gonna go deep into January.
I think the negativity with this team comes with the playoffs, the late season. I don't think the negativity and the doubts are that they're going to go, 8-9. I think it's what happens when they get to the playoffs. I mean, we saw it last year. They got run out of Kansas City, essentially. They only scored 7 points. I think it was that the game that was brutally cold?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So it's like when that shit happens, what are you getting from them? So I don't think the negativity is like, oh, they're going to be a bad regular season team. I think the negativity is they're unproven late in the year and they're unproven in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And until just the way it goes, like until you prove it and get over the hump, that's just the stigma that follows you around.
And on the positive for them, like winning this division's a big deal.
Yes.
I don't know, and like it could be a lot more recent than I can remember, but I don't really remember the Dolphins winning this division very often. Now, for a long time, it was New England's to lose, but like Miami winning the division is kind of a success. But they've been kind of on the ascend for a couple years now, and it's you're starting to get to that point where you're like, all right, we gotta make something out of these runs now.
The last time they won the division was in 2008.
Yeah.
Tom Brady was hurt.
Yep.
The time before that was 2000, and the time before that was 1994.
It's been a while.
Yeah. So only once they've only won the division once since they've gone to the 4-division format in the NFL. So, anything else for the Dolphins, or shall we move on?
Not really. No, we can move on. Let's go second place.
Second place. Let's do it.
Yeah. So, I kind of alluded to sticking my neck out on a thing. I have the Jets tied record-wise at 10-7, and being right there in the division race. Now, last year, if you remember, and your listeners remember, we were pretty high on the Jets. Like Rodgers coming in, good defense, and young running back, and Garrett Wilson's there, and all these exciting things happening. I like what they did up front, and I'm going to just count on Aaron Rodgers kind of being at least somewhat of the Aaron Rodgers that we expected. And, of course, that all matters if he's healthy and all these different things. But I like the addition of Mike Williams. They still have Alan Lazard. I love Garrett Wilson. I think Breece Hall is going to be a stud this year. Their offensive line is better. They brought in Tyron Smith from the Cowboys. They drafted some guys to help them up front. And that defense is still relatively the same. They haven't
Yep.
really – they lost a couple edge guys. But, like, the Jets have a nice foundation with Sauce Gardner and company kind of in that secondary up front where I think they're going to be they're going to look really good some weeks, and I think some weeks you're going to be like, oh, is this team for real? But
Yep.
I think they got 10 wins in them. To win 7 games, like you said in the beginning last year, I don't love Robert Saleh or whatever his name is, the head coach. I don't know if he's a good coach, but to me, if you get Aaron Rodgers instead of Zach Wilson and company, like that to me is at least 3 or 4 wins more
I was going to
with
say
relatively the same team.
that's like my whole point in this is even a diminished Aaron Rodgers is so much better than Zach Wilson.
Yes.
Like, you're taking such a huge jump that to say you flip 2 games and go from 7-10 to 9-8, I think is an easy thing to say. For that team to win 7 games with the way Zach Wilson played quarterback boggles my mind. You would watch those games and be like, every time they'd show up on Red Zone, it'd be like, how are they in this game at all? So they've got they've got the 3rd place schedule, so they're not going to get crushed. I mean, you just look at some of their games: Titans, Broncos, the Vikings. Who knows what's going on with them right now?
Yep.
The Patriots twice. They have the Cards, the Colts. There's some winnable games out there. They've got some other tough games. Obviously, they have to play the Bills and the Dolphins twice, and it's a tough division. But nothing you said sounds crazy to me. And now, hey, I'm the biggest Aaron Rodgers fan in the world, so I'm sure that's affecting my judgment a little bit. But and I know I'm a broken record for the last 3 minutes here already. But like Zach Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, like
yes.
that's as simple as it is to me. And maybe that's being too simple, and there's like a regression for this team. But I don't know. I have a hard time believing that if they can win 7 games with Zach Wilson, that they can't win at least 9 with Aaron Rodgers.
And so my only thing with the Jets is, are they going to try to do too much? Are they going to? Is Aaron Rodgers going to be so? Maybe he's going to be more in control of that offense, and is he going to just be like, well, I'm the guy, like I'm going to take this, and it's going to be too much, and it's going to take away from Breece Hall, it's going to take away from the defense, and it's going to take away from some of their special teams and all that stuff, and then you get in that situation where it's like, well, why are we losing, or why is this game that close when we were a big favorite going into New England or something like that, and you hope. At this stage in his career, Aaron Rodgers can just be like, I just have to be the difference that Zach Wilson wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just have to make the right read, the right throw, and then once in a while I can make that really splashy on a dime, on the sideline. My guy makes a really, really spectacular grab for me, and that's the difference, and that propels them to, because they can lean on this run game.
Yep.
They can lean on this defense a little bit. They have some decent receiving core. Like, I'm a big believer in Garrett Wilson. I think he's the top 5 or 6 wide receiver in the league. But that's the only thing that I think can hurt them is if the head coach or even Aaron Rodgers in some aspect kind of says like, no, I'm just going to sling it all over and we're going to be this team now. They don't really have to change much, and they could be pretty good, I think. So I think they're going to be competing for the division in a good division. So
yep. Here's the thing to watch. Their first 4 games of the year. They open, I believe it's Monday Night Football at the 49ers. That's going to be a tough game. If they win that game, expectations are going to be sky high. Now, the next 3 weeks, at the Titans, host the Patriots, host the Broncos. Those are 3 very winnable games. If for some reason or another they come out of there like 1-3, there is going to be pressure from every media organization in the New York City area. What's going on with the Jets? They're going to be flooding that the practice facility with reporters and questions. It's going to be a circus already. We saw that last year in the lead up. So I think managing expectations early is going to be a big thing for these guys. Like, if they do get out and they're 3-1, say they lose to the 49ers, win the next 3, manage the expectations. And if they're the other way, like, don't let the weight of the world come down on you and like blow the season up in a hurry, because that is a very real possibility.
I am 100% agreeing with you there. Like, to me, they have to go 3-1 at minimum. Yeah. Like, I just, even 2-2 doesn't feel like a good spot for them to be. So, obviously, I think everybody would say, like, oh, San Francisco beats them the first game. So if that's the case, if everybody in the world is going to be correct on that, they got to win the next 3.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what CMC's status is for week 1 right now, but I mean, the 49ers without CMC, I mean, I could see him pulling that one off.
Yeah. Is it at San Fran, right?
It is at San Fran.
Yeah. You know, Rodgers loves them out there, though. He's a California boy.
He's not had good luck against San Francisco.
No, you're right.
In his career, though. I can speak to that fact. Yeah. All right, let's. Where are we going next? Do you want to go to the Bills or do you want to do the Patriots? I think the Patriots is a quick discussion wherever we do it. So.
Yeah. So for me, this is where I was sticking my neck out. I have the Bills finishing 9-8. People, everything that I've seen has the Bills probably winning this division, winning 10, 11, maybe 12 games. And maybe I'll give you where I think people are doing this. And maybe it's not something that everybody's thought about, but last year without Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen was a different quarterback in kind of a positive way. Like he really spread the ball around. It gave Khalil Shakir some time to develop. People are excited about him. They brought over Curtis Samuel in replacement for Gabe Davis. They drafted Keon Coleman, kind of in a replacement role of either Gabe Davis or Stephon Diggs. So, and maybe they're, as an organization, they were like, well, we can let Diggs go because Josh Allen has proven like he can kind of carry that middle of the road wide receiver core. And you can't forget about Dalton Kincaid. Dawson Knox is still there. Like, he's got weapons, so I don't want to say like he doesn't have a chance. I don't really like what they've done defensively in trying to fill holes. Like, they haven't filled really a defensive hole. They lost Jordan Poyer. They lost Micah Hyde. They lost Tre'Davious White. Like, they've lost some pieces on defense, especially in the secondary, and I'm like, well, what are you doing? Like, you didn't really draft heavy for secondary. You didn't really like go out and try to nitpick some guys, or you went out and got Mac Hollins, a wide receiver. You went out and got Connor McGovern, the former Cowboys center. Like, I love it. Like, I think James Cook is a good running back. I like the receivers. I think Josh Allen's incredible. And that's why I alluded to, if they win this division with 10, 11, 12 wins, he has to be the front runner for MVP.
Of the 3 teams we are considering the good teams in this division, I think their roster changed for the worst of those 3 teams. And I don't think it's really debatable. I think the other teams, like the Jets, kind of stayed the same. I think the Dolphins stayed the same, made a couple of additions that they needed. Yeah. I think the Bills roster has gotten worse.
Yeah.
When you just kind of look across the line. Maybe a couple of those, rookies, they got the Cole Bishop, I think, in the second round. Yeah. Dwayne Carter, I just love that name, on the D-line. Maybe those guys pan out, but like, if they don't, like, if they're not immediate, influences, then I think this roster got worse, and the other teams didn't, or they slightly improved.
Yeah. And I know, like, looking at the schedule and stuff, and I think
that was going to be my next thing. There is some tough games on that schedule.
It really, really is. So, like, I have no doubt Josh Allen can be the MVP of the league. And I think 9-8, they're, like, maybe fighting for a wild card at that spot. But, like, would it surprise me if they went 12-5? No. But, like, I don't like when teams... And we're going to talk about some in the future. I don't like when teams just keep things status quo when you have a guy like that.
Yeah.
Like, this is your time. This is your 7 to 10 years at minimum of going after it, and there's ways to do it. You look at the Eagles, you look at the Chiefs, you look at these teams around the league that are
The
staying
49ers
relevant.
seem
The
to just
49ers.
make the salary cap a non-issue every year somehow.
Yes.
I mean, you're hearing that it might finally show up and come to roost for them this year, but like otherwise it's just like, oh, we'll just fucking sign whoever we want and we'll figure it out later.
But as a Packers fan, I know as a Cowboys fan, like when you take away weapons and defense from your star quarterback, it usually doesn't end up with Super Bowls. It usually doesn't. It's very rare. So I think Josh Allen's incredible. He does turn it over a lot at certain times, but like they just put the monkey on his back. They put like an elephant on his back. They were like, all right, now it's just you. Carry us to the promised land. And we're just going to try to build around some of these young pieces and almost like a half rebuild with a top 3 quarterback. And it just bothers me. And I feel bad for Buffalo. I don't like Buffalo, but I do feel bad for him and Josh Allen a little bit. And maybe he's going to prove me wrong and make me kind of contemplate maybe he's the best quarterback in the league. But I have them finishing kind of in that second, third spot at 9-8.
Yeah, it's funny we talk about how they didn't really do anything, and it seemed like if they were gonna, this would have been like kind of their last best chance based on Josh Allen's cap hit. This year he's a $30 million cap hit. Next year he's a $60 million cap hit.
Mm-hmm.
And then the years after that, it's 56, 49, 45. And he just went up to a 30 from an 18 this year. So it's like, man, it felt like that was the year, like these couple years now before the cap hit gets real big, that you had to go and do something. But
which it might not be a huge deal because the salary cap goes up every year.
Yeah, and they're already talking about trying to redo the CBA because they want to add an 18th game. So, I mean, that's always the thing.
So many moving parts. But
everything out looks way worse in the future than it turns out to be.
Look at just real quick, and then we'll get to the Patriots. But, like, look at what we talked about with, like, the Rams. Like, 2 years ago, they were, like, way over the salary cap. They're spending all this money. Teams make it work.
Yeah.
They make it work. And now we're talking about the Rams being like a sleeper pick to maybe win the NFC. Like, so it just, I don't want to see that for Josh Allen. I think the Bills fan base is incredible. But I do think this is where I'm going to stick my neck out. I think it's going to be a slightly disappointing year for Buffalo.
I mean, those years are like out there for every team, and like they come sooner or later. Just a couple of things like on the salary cap. I was going to say, every time I talk like Packers salary cap with Bill, he's like, fucking salary cap is bullshit. Like, it doesn't matter. It's fake.
Yes.
And you talk about how the Rams, they have $23.5 million in available cap space this year.
Yeah.
And just a couple of years ago, it was like, what are they? How can they do anything? They're so fucked. And it's like, they're fine.
Yep.
All right. The Patriots. I mean, honestly, there's really not much to talk about here from my point of view.
No.
It's what does Drake May look like?
Yeah.
And what did the Patriots look like without Bill Belichick?
Yeah.
I think they probably stink this year. But
this is probably my worst team in the NFL this year, I think. Now, I haven't dove in too much on the North teams. But looking back at what we talked about out west and down south and now in the East, like I have them winning 3 games. I think they could easily be 0-8, 0-9, going like the first like 10 game stretch. Like it's gonna be tough. Like I think Drake May had a nice little preseason game the other night. Like he did some good things. KJ Osborne. I don't even know who else.
Yeah, they might not win a game the first 8 weeks.
Demario Douglas showed some flashes last year. They drafted that Jalen Polk from Washington, I believe, who I really like. He's had some really nice things written up about him, about training camp and some preseason stuff. So I'm excited for him. But I think this is a total kind of reset. I hope that Drake May kind of turns out to be a nice piece for them and gets them into competition because this division could be really fun
Yeah.
if all four teams are really good with Tua and Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers for the next next year, and then Drake May shows some flashes. But I have them finishing 3-14, which is worse than last year. Their schedule to me is it's brutal.
They could very easily be 0-8. Just looking at the schedule, I just closed it out by accident, but 0-8 is not a far stretch with the teams that are coming to town. All right, let's head over to the NFC East.
Okay.
Quick recap here: Cowboys won the division with 12 wins, 8-0 at home. Did not fare too well at home in the playoffs against yours truly's Packers. Then the Eagles 11-6, who absolutely collapsed coming down the stretch. They were 10-1, finished the year 1-5. The Giants 6-11. The Commanders 4-13. I'm going to go out on a limb here early before I get influenced by your thoughts. The Eagles will regress significantly this year, and this will be a very bad division, and the Cowboys will take it relatively easily. I don't know if the Cowboys win 12 games again this year, but they will win the division and will be in control of it for most of the year.
I disagree. So I have the Eagles winning the division, and it hurts. Now, if you remember last year, like I had the Eagles and Cowboys very, very close. Like I think I ended up saying 11 wins for the Cowboys, and I think 11 for the Eagles. So that was kind of spot on. They were right there. Cowboys got like the tiebreak. No, they won 12 games last year.
They won 12 games.
Yeah. So they got benefited by that late season collapse. The Eagles eagled this offseason, man, and I hate it, but they're a top 3 organization when it comes to being competitive. They've been competitive for, it feels like forever, but at least the last 25 years. Like if they're down for a year, they're up for 4 or 5.
Yeah, they bounce back very well.
And I love the Saquon Barkley thing, man. He's going to be, I think, a big difference maker. They still got Kenneth Gainwell.
I will give my one caveat to the Eagles regress. If they can find a way to utilize Saquon Barkley right and incorporate him in, and that opens up the passing game, I may have to eat a whole shitload of crow. But just the reports coming out that Jalen Hurts is changing plays at the line, and Sirianni was kind of falling on it, and there's just a general feeling around the Eagles that Sirianni's head is almost on the chopping block because, of course, that's what Philly fans want.
Yep.
And they're the most fickle fans in the history of the world. Just something feels wrong there. I know you're kind of telling me about all the good things they did in the offseason and how stacked the roster is.
I am.
Every once in a while, I get a feeling, and I'm like, I don't know, just something seems wrong. Something seems wrong.
So I will say, in my thought process, all of that, in my notes here, I legit typed out, that's my main concern. The Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni, AJ Brown kind of little trio there. I don't think they really love each other. And maybe they're working on it. Maybe winning some games is going to,
winning usually solves everything.
Yeah. But so my thing is, last year and in previous years, I always hounded them about linebacker play, and I always thought their secondary was a little overrated. Their defensive line is still really good. I know Fletcher Cox is gone. When you have Brandon Graham, who's getting older, but is a special defensive end, stops the run, can pressure the quarterback, he's one of their rotational guys now. Jordan Davis is there. My defensive rookie of the year last year, Jalen Carter, going out of the draft, I was like, this kid's going to be defensive player of the year for rookies. He's special, and he's just going to get better. Because usually D-tackle position, that's not an instant. It usually takes them 2 or 3 years to kind of get into stuff. I love that they brought in C.J. Gardner-Johnson back. I was huge on Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo, the corner, and he's just a rotational piece. Cooper DeJean is still, he's not even a starter. Like the depth that they have in the secondary, I think their linebackers with Devin White and company they've improved. I think this is going to be a better defensive team at times than it is offensively. And
They
when you
shored
have,
up their biggest kind of Achilles heel was that secondary.
yeah,
I don't know exactly what this stat means, but in 2022, they ranked first in expected points added per pass play per the RBSTM database. Don't know what that is either. But last season, they went down to 28th. They lost 37 games from their defensive backs injury, but they added a ton of help back there. So
yeah.
if they can shore that up now, if that stays the same, I feel much better about my out there prediction. But
And you do have to remember, like, at the end of the day, whatever you feel about Jalen Hurts, and I think he's another quarterback that probably gets too much credit at times. He still has probably a top 2 or 3 1-2 punch at the wide receiver position in the NFL
yeah,
with
with
AJ
AJ
Brown
Brown
and
and Devonta
Devontae
Smith.
Smith. Like and like Dallas Goedert's very, hit or miss sometimes, but he's a good tight end. Like they have a really good offense. And the offensive line really hasn't changed. They still got Lane Johnson and all those guys, except for Kelsey. But like that's still really like I'd be begging if I was half the teams in the league to have the Eagles' offensive line. So to me, they're really good up front. They have really good skill with Darius Slay on the outside defensively, really good skill offensively. They upgraded big time at the running back spot. If he stays healthy, Barkley's going to be, I think, a monster. Like, to me, I just can't see this team winning less than 10. I have them at 12-5.
And a couple new coordinators to keep your eye on there. Vic Fangio defensively, and then Kellen Moore offensively.
That Kellen Moore one might hurt him.
All right, MJ. I think we're saving one specific team for last.
Okay.
So let's go to the kind of the bottom dwellers here. Let's start with the New York Giants.
Okay.
Obviously, they lose Saquon Barkley. Their quarterback position is still not a positive, I would say. What are you seeing for these guys?
So, man, Daniel Jones is like the most shit on quarterback in the NFL. Don't you think so? Like, there's so many bad quarterbacks out there. Like, he gets more shit than like Zach Wilson did.
He gets a lot of money, though. Like, they locked him up for a lot of money. He's in New York. He's been there a while.
Yes.
I can't remember what year, but one of the years recently, it felt like he had kind of taken a step, and it felt like it came crashing back to earth last year.
Yeah. And it's another tough situation. Being in New York, a lot of pressure and all these different things. I don't think they're going to be that good. I think I have them at like 6-11, 7-10. That's kind of where I cut it off. I wrote down 7-10 because I do think there's some winnable games in their schedule.
It should also be noted that their offensive line stinks.
Yes.
They allowed 85 sacks last year. That was 20 more than any other team.
And they didn't really improve that, which can be tough. I love Malik Neighbors. I think he could be really special. I think that's going to help. I really do. Like I think he has a chance to maybe be what Odell Beckham was when he first showed up in New York. I really do think he could carry them a few times. Their receivers, the other receivers are okay. They've been around for a while. I'm just worried about their offense. I think their defense is a little underrated. Last year, I was big on Kayvon Thibodeau. I remember when we were talking about betting stuff, I kind of said to sprinkle maybe the 10 plus. I think it was like plus 350, plus 400. I think he had like 11 or 12 sacks last year. I like him. The defensive line is solid. They've tried to upgrade. I think it's Brian Banks. I think Maryland from a draft or two ago is in the secondary. Like they're doing some things, but New York's not going to be patient enough to be bad, and they're going to. I don't think anyone in that locker room or in that organization believes Daniel Jones is going to be there after this year.
Doesn't seem so.
it just seems like they're just, once shit starts to go bad, I don't see how it's going to get better.
Yeah.
Drew Lock, throw him in there and just be like, hey, buddy, go ahead. Like,
Go for it. Have fun.
Yeah, which I think 7 wins would be kind of like, all right, they're okay.
Yeah, they're over under set at 6.5. So,
so I think that's about right.
all right, the Commanders, new quarterback in town, Jaden Daniels. I saw some highlights, showing some flashes and some preseason stuff. Dan Quinn comes to town, another former Cowboy guy for you.
Yeah.
What are we seeing here? 3-13. What were they last year? 3-13, 3-14 rather.
4-13.
4-13.
Yeah.
They lost 8 in a row to finish the season. By the way.
Yeah, I mean they were bad, and they
were 4-5 at one point.
I don't think they should have been as bad as they were. Like, and I'll say this: like, not only Dan Quinn coming in, this is almost a different team altogether. They've added, like, I wrote down the people that they added. It's insane how many different bodies.
List a couple off, just to give an idea here.
Edge Dorrance Armstrong from the Cowboys. Tyler Biotish, the center from the Cowboys. Jeremy Chin, the safety. Good addition. I like that one a lot. Brandon Coleman, the tackle. They got Daniels in the draft. Michael Davis, corner. Austin Eckler. Zach Ertz. Cleveland Farrell, the defensive end / tackle. Dante Fowler Jr. from the Cowboys. Marcus Mariota. New kicker, Brandon McManus. Bobby Wagner's there now. Like, they added a ton, and that's not even it. There's like 5 or 6 more.
Yeah,
this is a whole different team.
If they can get some kind of late career resurgences out of some of those guys, they could win a few games if Jaden Daniels turns out. Like, Eckler's a guy who, had that incredible year. What was it, 2022 with the Chargers, and then was banged up last year?
Yep.
I mean, if he finds anything like that gives Daniels a little something in the backfield to kind of take the pressure off, that could be really helpful for them.
Yeah, and I like Jonathan Allen, defensive tackle. Deron Payne still there. They got some guys up front. They got some edge rushers. And, like, I will give Dan Quinn a lot of credit in this. His first year and second year in a lot of places, there's usually, like, a nice jump. Like, there's normally, like, it's like a different culture. They get some more turnovers, and the defense does turn a corner. So I think Washington's defense will take a step. I don't think for long term, maybe it won't. So it really just comes back to me as, like, the run game's going to be okay with Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler kind of doing their thunder and lightning type of thing there. Eckler's already said, like, he doesn't mind just being kind of a third down, low reps type of guy this stage in his career. Terry McLaurin's there. I think
Scary Terry.
I think Jahan Dotson could be a sneaky.
I love Jahan Dotson.
Like, sneaky good, like, fantasy, like, type quarterback. So it really wide receiver. So I think it comes back to that quarterback. Like, do you believe in Jaden Daniels and him coming in and taking the reins? And I like Jaden Daniels. I think, like, he could be a little bit of like a Anthony Richardson without the size a little bit, and be running around making these, like, crazy plays. And all of a sudden people are like, Washington's exciting. They're going to be the next big thing. I have them kind of surprising some teams and going 7-10. And I think it's a little bit of my Dan Quinn, not love, but just kind of belief in, like, that breath of fresh air.
Yep.
Like, it's not that Ron Rivera just,
Yeah.
Like, there's going to be some fresh air in there. They're exciting with the new quarterback, and the receiver is good. Like, it's a different team, some veterans that, want to win. And so I think they're going to be competitive.
I think 7-10 is probably a little much, but I could definitely see them be competitive. I can see them winning some games that you're not expecting them to win.
Yeah.
I also think I could see them losing some games you're not expecting them to lose, like just with a young quarterback. One thing to say about Jaden Daniels, he's 23 years old. He played 5 years of college football. He played 3 at Arizona State. He was hurt for what would have been his sophomore year. But 12 games in his freshman year, 13 as a junior, 14, and then 12 in his 2 years at LSU. The guy's played a lot of football, like high-level football. It's not the NFL, obviously, but like this isn't a guy that you're coming in and he's like, oh, he's only started 1 year in college, and then he flashed a bunch of shit, and so we're taking it all off potential. Like, the dude's played a lot of football. There's a lot of tape on him. Like, they figured it out. And then, obviously, his year at LSU last year was fantastic. 3,800 passing yards for 40 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions, ran for another 1,100 yards. So he's a guy you're going to have to game plan specifically for. So it'll be they're going to be an interesting team to watch. They're going to be like kind of my team. I'm like interested to see how they progress.
Yeah.
And if they show signs of getting better throughout the year, I think next year is a very, very interesting Washington Commanders team.
And I'll say this on the last thing on Jaden Daniels, too, is if you look at his college career, he got better and better and better every year. And now I know moving to LSU really helps that sometimes. But, like, even his early years, like, you could see a progression of him improving every single year. And I know people are worried about his stature and stuff, but I think if he does it right, I think he could be really special for him.
Yep. All right, MJ. It's time for the main event.
Okay.
The Dallas Cowboys. Your team, my man. What's going to happen?
What's going on? Where do you want to start? Like,
might as well start with Dak, right?
Yeah. All right. So I'll say this. Dak Prescott, I've been on this horse for, 7 years or 8 years now, going into his 8th year, which is so hard to believe. The guy is a top, whatever you want to think, a top 8 quarterback in the league.
Is Dak elite?
At times, yes. So he was second in MVP voting. Second. It's amazing what media can do, because you would think he was Daniel Jones. You would think. I just heard on today about Justin Herbert. And literally the guy on my TV said he's never won a playoff game, but damn, he's special. What? Like, why can't we say that about Dak Prescott? I know the guy's only won 1 playoff game, but he wins 10, 11, 12 games every year. He's throwing for 4,000 yards. He's had 1 bad year of interceptions, and he's carried this team since Tony Romo left. He has. And whatever you want to feel about that, they have to extend him or it's done. It's done forever, because Trey Lance isn't the answer, ladies and gentlemen. Because if you just watch that preseason game against the Rams, he lost to another quarterback, Stetson Bennett from Georgia, from last year's draft. And the guy threw 4 interceptions, and the Cowboys still lost the game because Trey Lance couldn't get them past field goal range, and they ended up losing that game because Stetson Bennett had a 5th interception that got called back, and then he drove down and scored a touchdown with 4 seconds left. Trey Lance is not the answer. He's late on his throws. Stinks. He double hitches. He second guesses himself, and Cooper Rush is not it either. So you have to extend Dak Prescott, and you can extend Dak Prescott, Micah Parsons, and Cede Lamb, and still do all these inner workings that you want to do. So the fact that Steven and Jerry Jones haven't extended him and haven't given him the price that he's maybe bargaining for, or his agent's bargaining for, and he says it's not about money, he wants to be a Cowboy for life, and I know he's mentioned about going to other teams maybe past this season because it's just part of the business, but you're a fool if you think Dak Prescott is not at least the top 10. To me, he's a top 6 quarterback in the league.
Yeah. I think there's the thing with Dak. It's going to be part of being the quarterback of the Cowboys. I mean, they're on every talk show, every radio station is going to talk about the Cowboys. But my thing with Dak is, like, if you don't extend him, what's your solution? Like you said, Trey Lance ain't it. Trey Lance stinks. Like, where are you going to go? Like, I know there's this thing, like, that he can't win in the playoffs, and I get it. And getting to the playoffs and losing sucks ass.
Yes.
I witnessed it for a lot of years as a Packers fan. Like, it sucks. And you always had to, like, kind of talk me down and be like, dude, you get there every year. Like, it's, like, you can't win every time you get to the playoffs. It's hard to win in the playoffs. The teams that do win consistently in the playoffs, we look at them like they're these incredible teams and incredible organizations for a reason. Because It's not easy. And I need to take a dose of that when I think about my Packers. But, like, Dak Prescott's stat line last year, 4,500 yards, 36 touchdowns, just 9 interceptions, his best quarterback rating of his career, 105.9, only fumbled it 4 times. Like, where are you finding that production elsewhere? And, like, Jerry Jones is like, I want to win now. Like, here's your way to win now. It hasn't worked so far, but, like, the alternative's no better.
No.
Like, I'm not the biggest Dak Prescott in the playoffs fan. I've always said he's an incredible regular season quarterback. And guess what? To make the playoffs, you have to have a good regular season quarterback. And you just have to hope that you can surround him with the pieces, get the right plays, and get hot in the playoffs. Because you always see a team that gets hot in the playoffs, but you're not going to get there with Trey Lance. The Cooper Rush, like you said, isn't it? Where else are you going to get a quarterback?
I don't know. And the Cowboys have proven to me that they don't draft quarterback that well.
Yeah.
They wanted to draft Johnny Manziel years ago. They wanted to draft Paxton Lynch. And that got taken away from them, so then they settled on Dak Prescott. Like,
yep.
So to me, it's just I don't know why, but ever since Stephen Jones, it's almost like they've had to, like, 180 this thing. You know, it's Jerry Jones. All he's going to do is he was going to be the summer superstar. He's going to bring in this free agent, this free agent, this free agent. And now once kind of more of that power went to Stephen Jones within the last decade, like, it's like, well, we're going to draft and develop, and we don't need to go out and make these big splashes. We're going to pay our guys. Then pay him. Like, pay your guy then. Like, if you think Dak is the guy, which I think they do, pay the man. Like, and I would pay him. He would have already been extended. Like, you just don't
It's just cost them money by not doing it.
Yes. And to me, it's like, you know, last
year really hurt his cause.
Yeah, I know. But to be honest with you, that's a bigger problem. It's a bigger problem. And I'll get into that as we talk about them, you know, a little bit more in depth. So if you want to do that, or you want to talk about Cede Lamb, what do you want to talk about? I got lots to say.
I think the consensus on Cede Lamb, Micah Parsons, and Dak is these are some of the most talented players in the league. If you don't want to pony up the money for them and try and fill the roster and elsewhere, and you want to try and replace them in the aggregate, it's like, good luck.
Yep.
Maybe you could do that with Cede Lamb, maybe, but you ain't doing it with Micah Parsons. That dude's a killer.
Yep.
And I don't know how you do it with Dak. So maybe if you want to pinch your penny somewhere, CD, but, like, go find number 1 receivers in the NFL. That ain't fucking easy either.
No.
So
and he's it. He's it right now.
Yeah.
That's it. It's Cede Lamb, and then you have a drop-off, and it's now an aging Brandon Cooks and Jake Ferguson, your tight end. Your third receiver is Jalen Tolbert, who showed some flashes last year that he's improved, and he's worked really hard. Like, I've heard Dak Prescott really praise him. Dak really likes him. He wanted Dallas to draft him, so they drafted him. So I think there's a good connection there. I think he'll have a decent year in that kind of that slot role a little bit.
Here's one more thing on Cede Lamb.
Go ahead.
I just pulled up the Pro Football Focus's ranking of the top wide receivers in the NFL. Justin Jefferson, number 1. Tyreek Hill, 2. Jamar Chase, 3. Cede Lamb, 4.
Special.
You can make an argument for any one of the four of them, I think.
Yeah.
The next one is A.J. Brown. Then it goes Devontae Adams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brandon Ayuk at 8, Cooper Kupp at 9, Debo at 10. I think there is a very clear drop-off after number 4.
Yeah.
I think A.J. Brown's very good. Devontae's had a down year. Tough to know how much of that is quarterback play, how much of it is he's getting older. He could maybe reinsert himself into that situation if he has a bounce back year. But like Amon-Ra St. Brown, I love him. I think he's a great player. I think that's down a level. I think Cooper Kupp in his age is down a level. I think Debo is a very unique player and does a lot of unique things. I think he's down a level as a straight number 1 wide receiver. Same thing. Now we're starting to get down. Stephon Diggs, DJ Moore, Puka, we'll see. Garrett Wilson maybe is a little underrated. We'll see what happens with Aaron Rodgers. And then like Nico Collins, like I think there's a very clear, like those top 4 wide receivers are different than the rest.
Yep. So, and you can pay him. Like I've looked into it. Like you can pay all 3 of these guys. You could do it tomorrow if the numbers were right and everything. Like with guaranteed money and salary cap movement and all these different things. Like you can do it. It's possible.
Yep.
It's just them being stubborn. So to me, like I think CD in Dallas have had talks, and there was a couple days last week where I almost messaged you and said, I think CD is going to get done in a couple days. And I think there's talks with Dak still, and things are, I think, on a good thing. So I have faith that it's going to get done. I do. But if it doesn't, they're fools. Like they're just ignorant. Like it doesn't make any sense what they're doing. And to me, this whole let's win now and let's be relevant and all this stuff, it's just nonsense. It's all it is.
I'm such a hypocrite here as I picked the Cowboys to win this division because of the internal strife of the Eagles.
Yeah.
And it's like all this shit's hanging over the Cowboys too. And I'm just like, nah, they're gonna win.
Yeah. So like I'll say this, and then we'll kind of get back to the other things here. The Dallas Cowboys were and I mentioned this in I think our first week together. The Cowboys were elite at one thing defensively. That's it, and that was taking the ball away. That's it.
Whether that was live by the sword, die by the sword, when that's your game plan.
If they were going to pressure the quarterback well and get some sacks, turnovers that way, they were going to be winning games. If they got some interceptions from Deron Bland or Diggs when he was healthy or whoever it may have been, they were going to be in games and winning. The teams that took care of the ball and didn't let them pressure and kept them off balance by running the football, it was the most overrated defense. And I'm saying that in the grand scheme of things. Like if you look on Madden even, they're a high-ranked defense. If you talk to anybody, well, Dallas's defense is pretty good. You know, you got Kansas City and you got the Jets and you got, Dallas is right there. Like they turn the ball over a lot. Well, they don't stop the run. They were small, skinny, fast players. They had safeties coming down to play linebacker because that's what Dan Quinn wanted. And there was no disguising of defense. Mozzie Smith has been a big disappointment at the defensive tackle position. You lost Jonathan Hankins in free agency. He's not there anymore. So it's Mozzie Smith and O.C. Adigizua from UCLA from a couple years ago. And I like him. Mozzie Smith has shown me, like, right now he's not coachable. I think he wants to be good. He's put on weight and everything. But everything that I've heard coming out of camp and stuff, he's a one-legged player. And he just tries to make contact with the guards and the centers, and he lifts his one leg. And he's just getting pressure from one leg, and he just gets mowed over. And the reps that he actually uses both legs, he does a little bit better, but he can't be consistent. And he needs to take a big, big step forward. The linebacker crew from last year with Leighton Vander Esch and
that's your favorite player, right?
Yeah, he's gone. He's retired. Rest in peace. No. But like they have some young pieces that I like. I like the kid from LSU. I like the Overshown kid from Texas, but they're young. So Eric Kendricks coming in could help them a little bit. But if they can't stop the run, it's going to be the same. And it's all going to fall back to Dak Prescott, which is ridiculous. This whole offseason has been ridiculous on how that loss against San Francisco or Green Bay and the losses against San Francisco, it's because of Dan Quinn and his defense. It really, really is. If you dig deep into this. So I will say they did get a little bit bigger, and I love the Mike Zimmer hire because from things that I've heard is Mike Zimmer's defensive looks and schemes have even confused Dak Prescott in practice and stuff a few times. They've demolished Trey Lance and Cooper Rush from what I've heard. Like, they just can't throw the ball. They're disguising coverages, which I think helps the Cowboys. I think their technique will be better because Zimmer's going to fucking just yell at them constantly instead of Dan Quinn just being up in the booth, just on his little microphone and whatever. And, like, he's going to get after these guys. And I think the defense is going to be better for it, but I don't know if they have the personnel yet. So I'll throw this out, and then I'll get to their record. Look out for Joseph, the defensive tackle from Minnesota.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about? Linval Joseph, right?
Oh, yeah.
Is it Linval? Is that his first
ringing
name?
a bell with me. Gosh. Now I said yeah, so. Like I knew what I was talking about.
Look out for him to be a little late preseason ad here to the Cowboys.
Okay.
To help
Linval
out
Joseph.
Defensive tackle position.
Yeah, free agent. Yep.
Yeah. So look out for him to be a Dallas Cowboy in the next couple weeks.
Okay.
Zeke Elliott's not Zeke. So these guys, like, I looked at ESPN earlier the week. They have him at the roster spot for the running back one. It's going to be Rico Dowdle. That's who it's going to be. So if you're looking for fantasy advice, I think Dowdle's going to be the one. Zeke's going to get your goal line short yardage situation carries. Royce Freeman could be a cut if they want to keep Malik Davis or anything at running back. This offense is going to be good. I think Dak Prescott's going to be really good again. I like what they did up front, got a little bit bigger and stronger. I have them winning 10 games, 10-7.
Okay.
I could talk about these Cowboys forever. So I apologize.
I'm just letting you cook, man. I'm just letting you cook. Yeah, I'm just scanning their schedule here. Browns, Saints. Obviously, they get the Giants and the Commanders twice. That could be up in the air. Falcons. They do have the Bengals. They have the Panthers. Like, I don't think, like I said, I think they win the division. I think Philly steps back. I think the Cowboys win the division. I think Mike Zimmer is going to be a tremendous addition for this team. If he still has any of what he had, those defenses he put together up in Minnesota, if he brings half of that down there, it's going to be a huge improvement for you. And like I said, the defense let him down. I mean, I've seen years where the Packers, it was like, oh yeah, they get a bunch of turnovers. It's kind of the bend don't break, and then let the offense break and get the turnover. And it's like, it works great until it doesn't, and then you get fucking blitzed.
Yes.
And I just had it up, Dak stats from that wildcard game. He threw the ball 60 times in that playoff game last year against the Packers.
Why do you think all right. The obvious reason is they were down fast.
They were down, and they just had to.
Because guess who couldn't stop? Jordan Love, Aaron Jones, and whatever his name is. The big guy there. From Boston College. Help me.
Oh, yeah, the tight end.
No. You're running back.
Oh, sorry. Fat boy.
Yeah, that guy.
He didn't play in that game, though.
No, I don't know. But it didn't matter.
AJ Dillon's fat ass.
So, but it didn't matter.
I don't think he played in that game.
It was 5 to 10 yards on the ground. 5-10, and then Jordan Love picking it apart because they couldn't.
Yeah, Aaron Jones averaged 5.6 yards a carry that game.
Yes. It was incredible. And then it was like, Dak throws a pick or whatever, and it looks bad and stuff. They ended up scoring,
32 points.
Yeah. And I'm not saying he played well. He didn't. But that game could have been 49-0 with a lot of other quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And it started, they couldn't run the ball, and that's another concern for me, but I'm hoping with the upfront help that they'll be better at that this year. But Tony Pollard was 2-3 yards a carry. And then, it was so rough to watch. There were
He
deeper
averaged 3
seated
points.
problems.
He had 15 carries for 56 yards in the game. He only outrushed Dak by 11 yards.
It's incredible. It really is. And I don't mean to just have this be a Dak conversation and stuff. It's incredible.
That's the
blame
conversation with the Cowboys, though. Like, you say you don't mean to have it, but like that is the conversation with this team. There's not really a lot around it that like you can like deviate off in other ways and be like, oh, it's just this and it's just that, and if Dak's this, it's fine. But like Dak's the conversation. It just kind of comes with the territory of being the quarterback for the Cowboys, and being a very good quarterback for the Cowboys, who just hasn't been able to get over the hump in the playoffs.
You're right.
Just kind of the crux of it.
It's gonna just, oh my God. We'll see. I don't know.
10-7, Cowboys win the division.
Okay. All right. I hope you're right and I'm wrong, because I would like to see the Eagles take a step back, like you said, but we'll see.
There's something in the water in Philly.
Okay. Rats, probably.
Oh, shit. Oh, MJ, anything else to end it on?
No, dude. Listen, to your listeners, I apologize for my rant, but I feel like the public needs to hear what I have to say especially when it comes to Cowboys. But I hope everybody's enjoying like our preview here. It's been fun. And now we're going north.
Yeah, I'll get to rant next week.
Yeah, buddy.
Yep, NFC and AFC North next week. I'm sure there will be quite a lot of Packers talk, just as there was quite a lot of Cowboys talk. So looking forward to it, MJ. I love doing these. Just a forewarning, we will be doing the Packers, the NFC and the AFC early in the week. So by the time it comes out, God knows what could happen. But just forewarning, I'll say that again next week. But MJ, I appreciate you, man. 3 weeks in the books, one more to go. So we'll see you again next week.
All right. See you, Walls.
Time for some passing thoughts. Not a lot of passing thoughts, but just a couple out here. We will talk some golf, some baseball, just a couple of things here. We'll just start with my Cards, my Cleveland Guardians. I was at home all week this week. I wasn't traveling, so I don't have any weird ass travel stories. Just me and the wife hanging at home with the dog. No, nothing. Just went great. No weird travel stories and fucked up hotel rooms or fucked up flights. So everything was just, home cooking. The Guards, what an interesting week. What an interesting team we've been having lately. Win a bunch, lose a bunch, win a bunch, lose a bunch. Last I talked to, they'd just come off splitting with the Twins after getting swept by the Diamondbacks after having won 7 in a row. Sweep the Cubs, then head up to Milwaukee and get swept up there. Just makes no sense, man. If you look at the standings now, the Twins are just 2 back. So, goodness gracious, it's a race, people. Still just 1 game back at having the best record in the AL. Both the Orioles and the Yankees, where the Guards are going this week, just 1 game better at 73 and 52. Actually, just a half game better at 73 and 52. And then if you head over to the NL, the Phillies 73 and 51. The Brewers have the exact same record now, 72 and 52. And then the Dodgers 73 and 52. So it's a bunched up race for the best record in baseball. And Cleveland's still right there, despite being really weird lately. Some production issues. Stephen Kwan, since the All-Star break, since the All-Star break, is batting .225. He was batting .352 going into that. I think I also saw that Alex Cobb was, he's on the IL. He has a fractured nail. Anthony Gosse will be back up in the big. So big week again. They're all big weeks now. If you keep everybody in the race, 3 games set at the Yankees, then the Rangers come to town. Rangers, nothing wrong with them, 57 and 68. We could get some wins off those guys, but gotta pick up a win or 2 up in New York. 2 would be preferable. No game here tonight, Monday, as I'm talking to you. They will play Tuesday as you're listening. Whoever M. Boyd is, Matthew Boyd will be pitching for Cleveland. He's pitched 5 innings this week. Luis Gil on the mound for the Yankees. Does not seem like our best matchup right there. Yankees minus 165. Oofda. Alex Cobb was slated to pitch on Wednesday. That won't be happening. And then Gavin Williams faces off with Garrett Cole on a Thursday matinee. Golf this past week. Hideki Matsuyama wins the first playoff event, the FedEx St. Jude Championship. I watched none of it. I take that back. I watched one hole. I watched Hideki hit his shot in on 18. It got a little weird. Xander Schauffele got hot tamale on Sunday. Little Sunday 63. 4 birds out front, 3 out back, no bogeys. That rocketed him up the leaderboard to second. What are the FedEx Cup standings? Can I see that? Who snuck their way in and who snuck their way out? Through the FedEx St. Jude. Keegan Bradley, the last person to make it. He actually fell 11 spots. 11 spots. Eric Cole came up from 54th to snag a spot. Nick Dunlap moved up from 68th to 48th in his first season on tour. Gets his way in there. Tom Kim, Mackenzie Hughes, Mav McNeely, and Patrick Rogers are your first 4 out. Tom Kim fell from 43rd out of the playoffs, the biggest fall of anybody. So now next week, top 30. Top 30 is your list of people. Denny McCarthy moved from 45th up to 30th. Any other big movers? Will Zalatoris came from 49th up to 37th. Gets himself in shouting range to make the Tour Championship. And everybody's still out chasing Scotty Scheffler, who's 1,400 points ahead of Xander. Now 2,600 points ahead of Hideki because the points in the playoffs, are weird and things. So, whatever. We are in, where are we at this week? They're out in Denver, right? I think they're playing this course at 8,400 yards. Yeah, Castle Pines Golf Club. Let me see if I can find how far they're playing this thing from real quick. It's 7,700 yards, it says on Golf Pass. But if you Golf Plus, that's a thing, I guess. PGA Tour makes most anticipated return to Castle Pines for the 2024 PGA Championship. That's a picture of a video game. Apparently this thing can go 8,000 yards, and they might do that. Stretching near 8,100 yards, the Castle Pines will be the longest course to ever host a PGA Tour event. However, due to the course's elevation at 6,500 feet above sea level, golf balls travel approximately 10% further. I love when they play places like that. I loved when they were down in Mexico and they were running the calculation on that. So, anything else I have? Oh, I just had one note that everything that Kamala says she's going to do on day one, she could be doing right now. She's in the administration. The point in nominating your vice president to run for president is we're continuing what we've done. This isn't a day one thing. You can do it right now. You can do it right now. I think that's it. That's all I got. There's sorry people. Really wasn't a whole lot for me to add this week. Didn't have a whole lot of interesting stuff go on. So, that's it. Next week, MJ's back for week 4. Just want to say thank you, everybody. This is closing time. Closing time. So I'll see you guys next week. MJ's back, part 4. Like I said, we already recorded it. It's a banger. I think that may have been our best one yet. It's a good time. So we'll have that for you. It'll probably pretty much just be that. So if you're tuning in for something else, I'll sneak something in there to surprise you. But till next week, everybody. Peace.